Step 1 is file management. It's important in any InDesign project to keep all your related files together in one folder. If you're using the practice files that I've provided, you will have a folder with an InDesign template document, a Word document for your text, and an images folder containing 5 images. Step 2 is document setup and interface tour. So I'm going to double click on my template file to open it up. And I will get this missing fonts box, and that just means that there are fonts used in my template that I don't currently have on my computer. But that's okay, these fonts are all available in the Adobe font library. So I'm just going to click Activate, and it should install all those fonts on my machine. At this point, I want to go to File and Save to save my project. I want to make sure that I'm saving it to my folder that I created for my project. I'm going to name it Science Article. So for our tour of the interface, the first thing we want to make sure is that your workspace is set to Essentials right up here in the right corner. The workspace simply controls what the interface looks like. So in InDesign, we have our menu bar across the top. We have a toolbar on the left, and there are a lot of tools, but there are only 3 that we'll use today. First is the selection tool, which is this black arrow. And you can kind of think of this as a move tool. If you want to select an object and move it around, you'll do that, or resize it, you'll do that with the black arrow. Note that there's also a white arrow, which is rarely used. You always generally want to go for the black arrow. We have a type tool here. And then we're also going to use the color theme tool down here. It looks like an eyedropper. 3 other tools we won't actually use today, but are good for any InDesign user to know, is the line tool here, the rectangle tool, and if you click and hold, you get a couple other shape tools, and then the frame tool here. On the right side of my screen are the panels. By default, I have 3 panels open. My Properties panel, my Pages panel, and the CC Libraries. There are lots of other panels you can open, and they are all under the Window tab in your menu. There is one other panel that we will use today, and that is the Styles. We're going to go down to Styles and choose Paragraph Styles. And I'm going to use this a few times, so it's easiest if I dock this in my interface. So I'm going to grab the top of it here, and I'm just going to drag over to find this little blue line, and that docks that right there, and then I can close it up to save space. Step 3 is the tour of the template. So in my template, I have 6 pages of my article. The first 2 pages are a 2-page title spread. In this particular magazine, the first 2 pages is always a large image, generally with a title and maybe a short blurb. So it's completely blank in my template. On page 3 and 4 is where the main text of my article begins. You can see that there is a paragraph, an introductory paragraph of text here with a large drop cap. You can also see that when I click on this, that there is a blue box, and that is the text frame for this text. Then the main text is in 2 columns, and it flows throughout the article. These blue boxes with the big X's through, those are image frames, basically placeholders for images. Everything in this template is adaptable, so students can delete and move things around, resize things, whatever they would like to do with it. Step 4 is placing text. I've opened the Word document that has my text in it. And first I'm going to copy this introductory paragraph here. I'm just going to highlight it and copy it. And then I'll go to InDesign, and it's going to go here in this text frame. I'm going to grab the type tool here, and then I will highlight all of this text, including the big drop cap, and just delete it out. Then I'll paste in my new text. You can see here I've encountered a problem where my text does not all fit, right? You can see this little red plus sign. That denotes overset text, basically text that's not going to fit in my text frame. So I need to resize this text box. And I'm going to do that by going back to my black arrow. And now I can resize this text box by just grabbing the top of it and pulling up a little bit until all of my text fits. I'm going to go back to Word and grab the rest of my text, all of my text that will be in my 2-column layout. Copy that. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab my type tool. I'm going to highlight this placeholder text, delete it, and just paste my text in. And it should flow all the way through all these text boxes through to the last page of the article. Step 5 is apply text styles. Most of my text is already styled automatically by the template, but I do have some headings here that I'd like to apply a heading style. So I'm going to grab my type tool, I'm going to highlight the heading, and I'm going to open the paragraph styles here, and I'm going to click on heading. And you can see that has applied these styles, which were set in the template, to this heading. Step 6 is to update your master pages. So when you want to change the content of the running footer, you can't do that on the pages. You'll have to do that on the master page. So if you go to your pages panel over here on the right, you're going to double click on the thumbnail next to A master. And that takes you to the master page. And the master page is simply where you put all of the elements that you want to appear on every single page of the article, like running footers. Now that I'm on these pages, this is just a text frame that I can use my type tool to adjust in any way that I want. Maybe I just want to update the date. Remember that there is a right and left facing page on this document, so you'll have to change it on both sides. Once you've made your adjustments, you can double click back onto one of the pages of your article, and you can see now the running footer has been updated. Step 7 is to place images. When I'm ready to start placing images, I'm going to look for my image frames, which are the boxes with the blue X's through. To put an image inside one of the frames, I'm going to grab my selection tool and click on one of the frames, then go to File, Place, navigate to my folder, and choose the image I want to put there. It is automatically popping that image into this frame. I do want to show you how to resize images as well. Maybe I decide that I don't need this image here, so I might delete that out. I'm just going to click on it with my selection tool and then delete. I'm going to adjust these frames to give me more space. Maybe move the caption down. And then you'd think if I just want to resize this, I might just grab this frame and resize it. And you can see that that did not change the size of my picture. What that did is it changed the size of your frame. When you're ready to actually change the size of your image, you need to hover on the image to get the donut. Click on the donut, and you can see now this brown box appears. The brown box shows you the extent of your actual image. So if I drag this around, I can see that there's portions of my image that was not showing before. When I'm ready to resize, I can grab a corner of the brown box, hold the Shift key down to constrain proportions, and drag out to resize and make my image larger. One other way to resize your image, I'll show you with this image. I'm going to grab this frame and choose File, Place. This is for my author photo. And you can see what's happened here is that this, if I double click, you can see the brown box showing the extent of my image is very big into this little tiny frame. And sometimes when this is the case, it's easiest to right click and choose Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally. And that automatically adjusts the size of my image to the size of my frame. And then I can nudge it down to the right area. So you'll just continue throughout the article adding images to your existing frames. Step 8 is design the title spread. In this template, the first 2 pages are completely blank. And that is because in Scientific American, the magazine this template is modeled on, the first 2 pages of most of their articles are a big title spread. So a big image and the title and maybe a little blurb about the article. So there's nothing here, which is so students can kind of create their own design. So I'm going to start by placing a large image across both of these pages. In the past, we've added images to already existing frames, but in this case, there is no frame. So I'm going to go to File and choose Place, choose my cover image, and you can see now it's just hanging off my cursor. To place it here, I'm going to go up to my top left corner of my page. I'm going to click and drag to create the frame that this box, the image, will live in, like that. Okay. And then I'm going to, you can see that my image is a little wider than my pages. So I'm going to kind of decide which portion of my image I want to appear on the page. And I've decided I like this part of the image and then this part to put my title on. If you press W on your keyboard, it gives you a print preview. In this case, it helps to show which portion of my image is showing on my title page. Now, once I'm happy with my image, I'm going to create a text frame for my title. I'm going to go to my Type tool and create a large box down here for my title. The title is The Galaxy That Grew Up Too Fast. And you can see, you can't even see it now because it's so tiny. But I'm going to select this text and you go to my Properties panel to apply my text styles. And I do encourage you and your students to choose a new font that doesn't already exist on your computer. You can get great fonts from the Adobe font library at fonts.adobe.com. It's a very large library of really great fonts that are available to anyone with an Adobe license. So you can go to Browse Fonts here, and then start browsing around for a font that you like. I eventually chose slab serif. I chose headings, things that were good for headings, and I wanted something that had a thick weight. I eventually decided on this Jubilat, and when you're ready to activate one of these fonts, you just find the little activate button to activate it. You can see that this is already activated on my machine. Once you've activated the font, it will be available to you in InDesign. So once I go to my font drop down, I can start to type the name of my font, Jubilat, and I can decide which style of the font I want, maybe the bold italic. I'm going to change my size to something much larger. Right now it's justified. I don't want it justified. I don't want a first line indent, and that's looking better. So I'm going to adjust my leading down and fix my typo. I think it needs to be a little bigger. That's looking good. Then I'm going to do the same thing for my blurb. Grab my Type tool, drag out a box, and paste in my content, which is on the Word doc that's in your project files. I'm going to paste it here and then style that. I chose a very simple sans serif that comes in a light weight as a kind of good contrast to this text. And then I turned hyphenation off down here. All right, that's looking good. The next thing I want to do is I want to grab a color from my image to apply to my text. And I'm going to use the color theme tool here and click on my image, which will bring up this color palette. You can choose from the drop down which one you like. I like this bright palette. And then I'm going to click this button here to add it to my swatches. Then when I go back to my type tool and highlight this text, this fill color here is the color of my text. At the bottom here will be that theme I added, and I decided I liked this light tan. I'm going to also apply that same color to this blurb. You can see now that my title spread is looking pretty good. Step 9 is tweak the layout to fit. So a really good article created from these templates is going to fill out the template nicely. There are not going to be any awkward white spaces at the end. So you want to have your students work to make sure that the article fits nicely in the template. So you can see that my article is a little too short. So if your article is too short, you're going to want to make your images larger. Maybe I'm going to make this a bit shorter and then adjust my image here to be a bit taller. You can see now that's fixed that problem a lot. If your article is too long and it won't fit, you're going to want to delete some images or make them smaller. If you really have a lot of extra text, you're going to have to add a new page at the end of your article. Step 10 is export to PDF and publish. When your article is completely done, you want to make sure that you first save it as an InDesign document so that you can come back and edit it again later. So I'm going to make sure I'm saving it to my project folder and save it. Now I'm ready to publish it, and I'm going to show you two different ways you could do this. The first is to publish online. If you go to File and choose Publish Online, this actually uploads a copy of your article to the Adobe Cloud, where it will be available to be viewed online. So if I click Publish, it's going to give me a URL. If I plug that URL into a browser here, it will display my article in this attractive viewer, which allows people to kind of scroll through my article and read it. So that's probably the easiest way to get your article out there. You might also want to save it as a PDF. So to do that, we're going to go to File and choose Export. Name your article. Make sure you're saving it to your project folder. And make sure the Format dropdown is set to Adobe PDF Print. When you press Save, you'll get this box with lots of different options. But if you look and have at this Adobe PDF preset drop down and choose high quality print, then you can probably ignore everything else. It will give you a good quality PDF. Then you'll press export and you have your PDF.